Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of the tutorial for the Zenitsu Lightning Dash. So before we get started, I'm gonna just show you what the attack looks like again, just in case you forgot or you need a refresher. If you haven't watched part 1 of the tutorial, go back and do that. That part covers building the lightning models, the animations, all that stuff. This part deals with mostly the scripting, so I'm gonna make all this possible. Alright, so that's what it will look like. And I'm not going to rush through the video, but I'm going to try explaining things a bit quicker because there is a lot to go over. So just try to keep up with that. Or you could review things as I say it. So this is where we left off. We made the lightning and the two animations, and we went over trails. So that's good. So if you didn't go over that or make these, make sure to go back into the previous video and review those. I also went into the toolbox and found a Nitrine Zenitsu's to be exact, just for the tutorial. You could find whatever one you want. All you have to do is go to View, Toolbox, and just find one you like. Okay, so let's get into the scripting, the fun part, the nitty gritty. So the first thing you want to do is make a event or remote event. So a remote event allows you to communicate from the client to the server. So I'm going to name this fire tech. So let's just say if I fired everything from the server, or sorry, the client, only the player could see it. Anything I do on the client, only the player can see. So I'm going to have to make a event so whenever the player presses Q, for example, it will fire this and it will go to a server script so the whole entire server can see it, not just one player. I'll show you what I mean in more depth here in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my starter character scripts or starter player. It doesn't really matter where it is. I'm going to put it in starter player as long as it detects a click. Actually, I'm going to put it in starter character because why not? So I'm just going to rename this main for now. It doesn't really matter what you name it. So a few things I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the replicated storage because that is where I added the remote event. So I'm going to get the replicated storage event, and I'm going to get the attack event from underneath the replicated storage. So fire attack equals replicated storage, and I'll do a wait for child since we're on the client. Fire attack. So now I have access to this and all the events and functions with it. So I also need a user input service. So if you don't know what user input service is yet, user input service deals with all the player's input. So if they click the mouse or if they press something on the keyboard, that's all input. So I'm going to get the user input service, not that. There we go. So now we have the replicated storage, the event, and the user input service. Let me just move this up here. Oops. And right here, just for organization. So now what I have to do is wait for the player to press a button or begin input. So to do that, I have to type in UIS, which is the name of my variable that references the user input service, dot input began. So it's going to wait for the player to communicate with either clicking or the keyboard. And then I'm going to connect this to a function. So by the way, this is a pretty difficult thing if you're a beginner scripter. So if you don't know much about scripting, please try to find another video to get the knowledge and then come back here because it might be a bit confusing and ominous to a beginner's eyes. So this part not so much, but once we get into the actual scripting of the attack, I'll try explaining the best I can. But if you need a refresher on something, you could go to the API reference and look over stuff there because that has some great explanations of how to use some things if I miss it. So this takes in two arguments. The first argument is the player's input, and the second argument is the game processing. So game processing is like if it's loading or if the player's in chat or something. So if the game is processing, I don't want this function to run. So I'm just going to say return end. and then I'll have it so if the user input type equals the keyboard, so all this is checking is making sure that the input is from the keyboard, so not the mouse. Keyboard input. And then I'm going to make sure that the input is, I'm going to use the key button on my keyboard, the Q button on my keyboard. You guys can use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be Q. It could be mouse button, one down, it could be anything. Literally any of these you can use. So I'm going to use Q, then it's going to fire the attack. So now I have access to the server script. So now all I have to do is go to server script service, and I'm going to create a script for the attack. Here we go. So this is the script for the attack. So I'm not sure if you guys know, but to actually be able to communicate between the client and the server, I have to use the remote event. So again, I'm going to get the replicated storage service, and I am going to get the event from the replicated storage. So not very different from what we did back here. And I'm going to say wait for child, and then I'll have fire attack. So there we go. Now all we need to do to start coding away is do this. Ready? Fire attack dot unserver event connect function. So now anything that I put inside of this function will run. So if I have a print statement that just says press Q, if I were to play my game right here and I press Q, it should work, or it should just say press Q inside my output, which I need to open. So if I press Q, look, it says press Q, and that's not from the client. If it were from the client, this little green bar would be yellow, or sorry, not yellow, blue. So that's how you know if it's from the server or the client. So everyone saw this or could see this message. That's from the server. So now all I have to do is start scripting the attack. So here's the fun part, guys. Let's go. Alrighty. So let's start with getting some variables so we can get right into it. So right now all we have are the is the replicated storage and the remote event. So what I'm going to want to do is go up to the folder that we put all of our things in last tutorial, and we're just going to drag this all underneath the script. This will allow us to just have access to it. This will allow us to have access through it, just easy access while we're making our attack. So first thing I'm actually going to do is just start coding the attack. So by the way, the player is going to be passed through as an argument right away. So now I have access to the player's character just by doing this. So if you don't know the difference between a player and a character, I'll show you real quick. So the character is the physical, like the physical player. So this is the character. If I were to go my workspace, find my name, this is my character. By accessing my character, I have access to all of these parts. So it's perfect. If I were to just have the player, this is everything that's stored in my player. I don't have access to the humanoid root part. I don't have access to the humanoid. So it's not that good having just this stuff. So I'm going to access the player's character and store it inside a variable. I will also access the primary part of the character, so then I could just have easy access to the primary part later on. In this case, the primary part is the humanoid root part. I forgot the equal sign. Don't forget that. Definitely don't want to forget that. Okay, so now we can start writing some of the attack. So right when I begin my attack, I want to anchor the humanoid root part. So by anchoring the humanoid root part, the player will be frozen. They won't be able to move. So if I play my game real quick and I press Q, my player should be frozen in place. Boom. Now I can't move. I'm pressing every key. I can't do anything. All I can do is rotate my camera. So this will be useful to make sure the player doesn't try moving around at the beginning of the attack. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go above here and I'm going to create a function. And this function is going to be named lightning. So what this function is going to do, let me show you what it looks like. So the function is going to summon a bunch of bolts of lightning around me. So if you pay attention to this, you see all these bolts of lightning? I'm going to have it so it creates that, okay? That's the first thing that we're going to do. So it's going to take a character as a parameter. Sorry, the character as a parameter, as in you. And I'm going to start coding the lightning. So I'm going to use a coroutine for this. So a coroutine makes its own thread. It's very similar to the spawn thread, if you've ever heard of that. This is just this is just a little bit better in my opinion. So this will make it so it runs in its own thread and it doesn't run separately or stop the whole script. So I'll give you a quick example of what a coroutine does, right? So if I have weight 5 here without the coroutine, and I say lightning, and then put the character in here, and then let's just say continue. Watch what happens, right? Actually, let's make it a little bit shorter, not 5 seconds. Let's make it 1 second. So once I press Q, it will wait 1 second, and then it will print press Q. So let's look at the output. Ready? See, it took a second to press or to print continue. You didn't see me press Q, but just keep that in mind. I pressed Q and then it printed that out. If I were to have this inside of a coroutine, this will print. Oops. Let me put this up here. This will print actually right away. I won't play the game again because it literally does the same thing, except this will print immediately because all this stuff is running separately from the script. So now I'm going to start creating the lightning attack. So to do this, I'm going to create a for loop. So I'm going to have it so it spawns 26 lightning bolts and it will increment by 1. So each time this loop iterates, it will increase by 1 up until it hits 25. So now what I want to do is access the lightning. The lightning is being kept underneath the script right here. So now all I have to do is type in local lightning equals script.lightning and then clone that. I'm also going to make it so it's random color, so it's either going to be yellow or blue. Which, by the way, to do this, we need to add this up here. This kind of just instantiates the random that Roblox gives you. So this will be used for random color. This right away won't give you a color. I'm going to make it so it does though. So I'm going to say if random color equals 1. By the way, this is a 50% chance. So it has a 50% chance of being yellow or a 50% chance of being blue. It just depends what number it chooses. So lightning.color equals color3, not cframe, color3.from RGB. From RGB just allows me to use a full-on scale like of 255 instead of 1. If I were to do color3.new, I would have to type in 1s instead of 255. It doesn't really matter what you use. I guess if you want to make the color very like specific, then you would be using a 255 scale, or if you're transferring a different value from another script or something. Okay, so the first bolt is going to be yellow, and the second script, or the second is going to be blue. It's going to be like a light blue. So, oopsie, color3.new, and then there we go. So now we got light blue, and by the way, Roblox added this really cool color wheel, so you could change the color to whatever you want through that. And one more thing, guys, I didn't explain this before. Because we have this lightning union, we want to make sure we enable the property use part color. If we don't enable this, the color won't change of the object. So click on the lightning and just make sure you have use part color selected. Alrighty, so now we have the color under control and we have the lightning cloned. Now we need to start editing the positioning of the lightning. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in local random offset. So the offset is how far away the lightning is going to spawn from the character. So it might spawn 10 studs in front of the character, it might spawn 10 studs to the left of the character. This will control that. So I'm going to say character.primaryPart. So this is getting the character's humanoid root part .cframe. So it's going to get their coordinate frame. This coordinate frames, if you don't know, they hold position and rotations. So by using a coordinate frame, it's really nice because it will rotate stuff relative to the character instead of the world's position. If you don't know about coordinate frames, again, the API reference forum has all the stuff you need about that. cframe.new. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I am multiplying this by another cframe, which will offset the lightning from the ground. So if I were to do, for example, if I were to just change the position of the lightning right now to the character's root part, it will look like this. Ready? So this is the code I have right now. If I were to leave it like it is, oops, I have to change the blue, it will spawn halfway, kind of like halfway in the ground almost. So I'm going to make it so it doesn't spawn in the ground. I'm going to have it so it fully spawns above ground, okay? And by doing this, I'm going to have to get the middle of the lightning, which is the y value, and divide that by 2. So I'm going to split this into half almost, and I'll offset it that way. So I'm going to say 0, comma lightning dot cframe dot y divided by 2. So this is how I'm going to make it so it is up instead of in the middle. So again, I'm taking half of it and I'm raising it up. Boom, just like that. That's what the script is telling it to do. And by the way, these are just variables right now. We're going to make it so it changes the lightning's actual C-frame here in a second. And now I'm going to have it so it changes the rotation. So I'm going to have it change it to a random angle equals C-frame dot angles. And cframe.angles uses the unit circle, so it uses radians. You probably don't know what the unit circle is or radians unless you've taken a trigonometry class or a pre-calc class. So the unit circle is measured in radians. It's what you use for sine, cosine, stuff like that. But you don't have to worry about that. So just for example though, if I were just to use math.rad 90 degrees, that will rotate the lightning bolt 90 degrees. If I were to do this, just 90, it will think of it as 90 pi. So you don't want to do that. So I'm going to do math.rad 90. That's what it would, that would rotate it 90 degrees. But we're going to have it be random. So we're going to use the random variable we have up here. So I'm going to type in rand and then next integer. So let's have it so either can rotate 90 degrees or negative 90 degrees or 90 degrees. It will choose a value in between this. I don't want it rotating on the X or Z axis because if I were to do that, watch what it would look like. It would look like this, or actually not like that. It would just rotate in a weird direction we don't want. We want it just to rotate on the Y like this, which is exactly what we're doing. And now, finally, we're going to put this all together. So I'm going to have it so it spawns. Oh, oops. I just realized this should be, that's my bad. Let me put this down here. I meant to have that as a random C-frame, not the random offset. That's totally my fault. So basically what I did, I just kind of, my mind just wasn't there. For the random offset, let me re-explain myself. I'm going to type in random, next integer, -10, 10. So basically this will spawn either 10 degrees to the left of the character. Let me rotate this 0 degrees again so it's not like crooked. 0. So it either could spawn 10 degrees to the left, 10 degrees to the right. So that's all it's saying right now. And we don't want it to go in up or down, so we're going to leave the y as 0. And finally, we're going to change it so the z is also random. So now it could spawn anywhere around the character within a 10 stud radius. So now all we have to do is multiply these two values by the C frame down here. It kind of just puts it all together. So random offset times random angle. So again, this will just spawn the lightning at the player's C frame where they're standing, and we'll multiply it by the offset. So we'll kind of offset it in the ground, or so it's not in the ground, and then it will multiply it by these two coordinate frames, which will spawn it around the character and rotate it. Sorry if that was a little confusing. Coordinate frames can be a little confusing sometimes. So yeah, plus I kind of misexplained the one thing because I actually made this the C frame instead of the offset. But now all we have to do is say lightning.cFrame equals random C frame, and lightning.parent equals workspace. So this will just parent the lightning to the workspace so everyone can see it. And now we need to get the debris service. If you don't know what the debris service is, it basically will just make it so it's like destroy, but it will destroy over a certain time interval. So I'm going to say debris add item lightning, and I'm going to make it so it destroys after point, let's just say 03. And then I'll have it wait 0.1 before it goes through all this again. So if I play my game, let's see what happens. Oh, I got an error. So it says attempt to index function with C-frame. So let's see, it says a line 8, coroutine.wrap, function lightning line 40, lightning character. So I think the problem might be getting lightning attempt to index function with C-frame. Oh, I think I might be, that's my mistake. I named this function lightning, and it's also the name of this variable. So let me just name this lightning function, and then all I have to do is change that down here to lightning function, and lightning. Oh yeah, I spelled lightning wrong up here too. So yeah, just make sure you have everything spelled correctly. It's my bad too. So now let's see if it works. Okay, here we go. So it should spawn a bunch of lightning bolts around my character. And as you can see, they're both yellow and blue, and my character's frozen in place still. Also, you could literally spam this function now, and you can have as many lightning bolts as you want. You could have 4 if you want, make it look really hectic. See what that looks like. Let's see it. So many lightning bolts, oh my goodness. It actually looks pretty cool. So you can have as many as you want. It doesn't matter, you could go completely overboard if you want. And let's continue with the lightning attack. So this function we no longer need to use. We just have it up here. So now we're gonna have it just wait 2.5 seconds. That's when the lightning is over, since it's gonna wait a total. That's how long it's just gonna wait. Okay. So now I'm gonna unanchor the player's through part, because now we're gonna start dealing with the teleporting and stuff. Okay. So First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start changing the player's position so he's teleporting around the character, okay? So let's do that. But to actually teleport around the enemy, we have to find the enemy first. We have to get the enemy. So to get the closest enemy, I'm also going to make another function, a local function, get enemy in range. So this is going to get the closest enemy around me. Okay, so it's going to start, the closest player is equal to nil because we don't know, we don't have the closest player yet. We're about to find that. So I'm going to have it so it goes through every single object inside the workspace and finds the closest player that way. Oops. So I'm going to say if object find first child humanoid. So finding the humanoid will make sure the player is actually a is not like a inanimate object and is actually a character. And I'm going to make sure it's not equal to me because I don't want to do this lightning dash on myself. I'm going to say if closest player equals nil. This will be the first character that it finds, it's equal to nil. I'm going to say closest player equals object, which is the character. So now what I want to do is get the magnitudes. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the enemy's magnitude. So to get magnitudes, by the way, all you have to do is you have to type in both the positions of the players, of two players. Here, I'll show you. So I'm going to get my primary part position, and I'm going to subtract that from the enemy's position, which is the object right now. And I'm going to type in dot magnitude. So if I were to just keep it like this, it will actually return a vector 3. But using dot magnitude will return a number. That's how far away from the character or the enemy you are. So magnitude is extremely useful for finding the distance from you to another player. And now I'm going to type in local closest magnitude. This is going to keep track of the closest player. Closest player dot primary part dot position. So this keeps track of the enemy it's currently on, and this keeps track of the closest player that's holding. So now all I have to do is say if enemy's magnitude is less than the closest player's magnitude, then the closest player is no longer the closest player. So now what I'm going to do is closest player equals object. It switches from the other one player to another. So it all depends on length or magnitude. So finally, all I have to do is return closest player, and this is the character that's closest to my player when I run this script. So now that we have the closest player, what we can do, or we have a function, now we need to actually store that function. So closest player equals get enemy in range of my character. So now I have that stored inside a variable. So now I can actually start the teleporting since I know the player or the enemy's position. So let's just say I'm going to rename this to closest enemy since that's what they are right now. They're the enemy. And I'm going to say enemy prim. This will get the primary part of the enemy, just like that. And I'm going to make it so it teleports the player 15 times right now. Oops, closest enemy dot primary part. So I'm going to have it so it teleports the player 15 times in a random direction. So let's create a random position. So the random position is going to be around the enemy's position. So I'm going to say enemy's primary part dot cframe, and then I'm going to make a totally random coordinate frame using random next integer. And this will just make it so it's within a 30 stud radius of the enemy. 30. So again, let me re-explain that one more time. So it's going to choose a random position around the enemy's primary part. So if I go to my game, and let's just say these were the enemies, it could be right here, it could be right here, it could be right here. My position doesn't matter, it's only the enemy's position that matters. So now all I have to do is type in my character. So this is my character, and I'm going to do pivot to. So if you guys didn't know, Roblox Studio is soon going to deprecate set primary part C-frame. And pivot to is basically going to change is going to replace that. Pivot to makes it so it doesn't matter if a model has a primary part. So if the character doesn't have a primary part, it doesn't matter. So just keep that in mind. So random position. So this will teleport my character to that position. So let's just see what this looks like right now. If I play the game. Let's see what we got. So I'm going to walk up to my character, and after these lightning bolts, I get an error. Primary, this is what happens. It's 8:23, it's nighttime. So primary, it says, is not a valid member of model workspace.theanimedev28. So let's see where I have primary typed. So if I go up to enemy magnitude, I'm going to change primary to primary part. That was just a was just a little mistake I had while typing it out. No problem though. Let's try again. So if I press Q, let's see if it works. Okay, so it does teleport the character into random positions, but for you to actually see it, I need to have a wait. So the wait will make it so it looks like he's teleporting around. So let's do that one more time. So let's see. Here we go. Boom. Now I'm teleporting around the character. So this will again teleport you in random positions around the enemy. So one more thing I want to do is I'm going to change the character's primary part so it's looking at the enemy. So to do this, there's actually a different constructor for C-frame. So all I have to do is get two positions. So I'm going to get my position, and then I'm going to have it look at the enemy's position. Let's see. So now I should be looking at the enemy every time my player teleports. Yep, now I'm rotating towards the character every time my player teleports, so it's perfect. Okay, so you guys are doing great, by the way. This is long, so you know, keep up. You're doing a great job so far. Alrighty, so let's move on. We want to make it so the player slices through the enemy for the final move. So I'm going to say prim.cframe, so this will get my C-frame, and I'm going to add. So you only add when you're going to be adding a vector 3 and not a C-frame. If you were to be adding adding a coordinate frame, basically you would use multiplication. But since we're adding a vector 3, we're going to be using this. So I'm going to get the character's look vector. The look vector is wherever the player is looking. So it will get the direction the player is looking. And I'm going to multiply this by 45. So 45, this is the amount of studs it's going to teleport the player in that direction. So for example, 45 studs might be this far. Or if I were to just change the position, let's add 45 to -7, that would be 37. Let's just do that. So it might go up that amount of studs, okay? So that's going to be the final C-frame. So now all we have to do is do character pivot to final C-frame. Now let's see what it does. It actually does do something differently. Just watch. I'll point it out. So now if I play my game, I'm going to teleport around the character. And I actually end up going through the character. Let me show you one more time. So I'm not going around the character, I actually end up going through a character for the last swing. It will make more sense when you see the trail. So now what we need to do, we're basically done with the C-frames and stuff. Now we just need to add the effects, okay? So we're going to add all the sounds, we're going to add all the animations, all that stuff we're going to do now, okay? So the core of it is done, basically. So let's do the trail first. Alrighty, so for the trail, I'm going to be making the attachments through a script. So let me do that. So to add the attachments, I'm going to have it after the wait statement. I'm just going to create 6 attachments. So if you watch the last tutorial, you'll notice that if I look at the character with the attachments, there's 6 of them, and they're aligned like this: top left, top middle, top right, bottom left, bottom middle, bottom right. So I'm going to align that just like that through a script, okay? Watch this. So I'm going to say if I is less than or equal to 3, then I'm going to have it so it actually attaches it to the top for the first time. Equals instance.new, so I'm creating a new attachment object, and I'm going to parent the attachment to the character's primary part, which is prim. And now I'm going to change the C-frame of the attachment. So C-frame.new. By the way, these numbers I didn't randomly come up with them. I kind of tested, so if you're a little confused at first, it's understandable. I don't create these attacks in 2 seconds. It actually takes me a bit of time to come up with the idea and actually create the attack. And I do have to do some bug fixing along the way. So now what I want to do is I'm going to divide I by 2. Honestly, I wouldn't even say it. Like, you can understand if you understand C-frames, but I don't think it's really useful to explain what each thing is going to be doing, since all I'm doing is adding a trail. So actually, I'm just adding the attachment. Okay, so I'm just going to rename these so the attachment is 1, 2, 3. You know, it's gonna, every time it increments, I is going to increase, and the 2 periods mean it's going to concatenate attachment to I. So when I is equal to 1, it will be attachment 1. When I is equal to 2, it will be attachment 2. And basically what it's doing here, it's taking I, dividing it by 2, and it's also taking the character's primary part size, and it's going to divide that by 2 to get like the halfway point. It's just going to subtract. Again, I don't think if you want to kind of look more in depth, you could do that on your own. For the sake of time, I'm not going to explain super in depth of what it means. And I'm going to add these to debris after 2.5 seconds because that's going to be the length of the attack. And one more thing, this is running 6 times, so I'm going to basically be doing something very similar for the other 3 attachments. Instance.new attachment, oops, not like that. Attachment.parent equals primary part, and then I'm going to change the C-frame to this. Again, I'm not going to even bother explaining. If you want to look into it, you definitely can. So let me do this quick. I minus 3 divided by 2, and then minus the primary parts size x divided by 2. So print that size. And this isn't meant to be an x, this is meant to be a y. So that's good. Let me make sure I have everything correct. We don't need a space there. Attachment.name equals toString, and then attachment.i. Then I'll do the debris again, add that to the debris after 2.5 seconds. Basically just destroys the item. So there we go. Now we got the attachments all placed. So again, they're basically now placed in a position where I can attach the trail to. Alrighty. So let's go back to the script. And now I want to create 3 trails. If you're a little confused with trails and stuff, definitely go back to the previous tutorial and watch the trail section. Because again, for every trail, I'm going to have 2 attachments. That's why I have 6 attachments being created and 3 trails. It's double the amount. So I'm going to say local trail, not trial. And then I'm going to create the trail. So this might be a bit more understandable than all these C-frames. C-frames can definitely be a little scary at first, but once you get used to them, it's actually not terrible. We all start somewhere, right? Attachment 0 equals primary part, find first child, attachment I. There we go. So now it's just finding the ith attachment and it's just renaming it. So not renaming it, just attaching it. Attachment 1 equals prim, find first child, attachment I plus 3. Remember, we already renamed the attachments up here, so all it's doing is finding the attachments and it's giving them the proper trail. So when I is equal to 1, it's going to attach it to trail or to attachment 1 and 4. So if you see this, I'm not sure if I didn't line them up the same way, but in this script, it's going to attach the trail to attachment 1 and 4, 2 and 5, 3 and 6. So it's like a pair almost. And let's change the some of the properties of the trail to what we had before. So now I'm just going to copy most of these settings, alright? So don't be too phased by this. I'm just going to be enabling some of the properties. I want the light emission to be 0.5, so it's going to emit a little bit of a light, not too much. It's going to face the camera. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen modulo. So modulo will make it so it detects if the number has a remainder, and it will, detect if it's even or odd. So for example, if the number is 2, if you divide 2 by 2, it has a remainder of 0. That means the number is even. If you divide 2 by 3, 2 divides into 3 one time, but it has a remainder of 1. That means it's an odd number. So I'm going to change the color and I'm going to use a color sequence. So color sequence is just because, well, attachments, you can't just type in color3.new. You actually have to make it a color sequence. So that's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to make it yellow again. And let me just copy and paste this down here. So now if the number is, or if I is odd, I'm going to have it so it's blue. And 255. So now I'm going to play my game again. Man, we're already 44 minutes deep. I knew this was going to be a pretty nitty-gritty tutorial, but let's see what this looks like now. So I'm going to have to change the lifetime now. So there's a few more things that we need to change, but it's actually really coming together now, guys. We're almost there. Okay. So, like I said, we need to change the lifetime. So I'm going to make the lifetime 0.6, which is 0.6 seconds. And I'm going to make the minimum length equal to 0.1. Okay, so I'm just going to copy and paste this in. You guys can copy this down. This is just a width scale that we made last video. So again, the width scale makes it so it goes smaller at the end like this. So that's the little thing right down here. We're just going to be scripting it so we script these 3 points. So now if I play the game, this will actually look super cool. We're almost there again. And by the way, this attack is super customizable, so you guys could basically make it like however you want. Oh, Lifetime is not, I put a capital T there, we don't want that capital T. So like I was saying, this attack is super customizable. You could change the colors, you could change how far out the player teleports, you could change how many lightning bolts are at the spawn. It's all like up to you guys. So now we're so close to finishing it. We have it so it slices through the enemy. Now we just need to add the sounds and the animations, okay? So let's do that. And by the way, I'll, as a bonus, I'll show the little the head popping off at the end. That'll be like an extra, okay? And I'll also have it so if you see the hit effect, so let me show you the video. I'm gonna show you what are gonna be the extras of the video. So let me play my game. So I'm gonna show you guys at the end of this video how to make the little head popping off at the end and the particle effects popping on the character. So that's up to you if you want to stick around for that, but it's definitely cool to have. Alrighty, so let's add the animations and stuff. So all the animations right now are being stored right underneath the attack script. We got the Nichiren hold and we got the enemy stun. So I'm just going to make these two variables up top. So Nichiren holds equals script.Nichiren holds. And then I'm going to get the stun script.stun. So now we have both of the attachment or the animations. I've said attachments too many times. What can I say? So now we have both of the animations, and now I just have to make it so the player starts and stops the animations. So if you don't know how animations work, you have to make it so the player actually so the animation loads onto the character's humanoid. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say local, let's make this anim track equals character.humanoid load animation. So all this is doing is loading the sword slash animation or the sword hold, so Nichiren hold, and it will actually I'll have it so it adjusts the speed to 0, so it's like frozen, it doesn't stop. I'll have it stop right at the end. So now the sword animation plays, and now what we want to do is, I think at the very bottom we're going to have it so it stops the animation. So animation track, stop, and we'll have it stop after 1 second after the attack finishes. So let's see what it looks like now. Let's look at this, guys. Here we go. So if I press Q, oh, something's wrong. It's not quite loading onto the character. So I think what I forgot to do was I actually forgot to type in play. I scroll up here. I forgot to actually play the animation, which I can just do on the same line. Why not? So let's have it so it plays right here, just like this. And now let me try again. So here we go. So if I press Q now, the animation plays. It says attempt to index nil with adjust speed. So I think if we want to adjust the speed, we actually have to have it play afterwards, just like that. So we'll have it play here, and now the animation plays. So that's good. Actually, let me have it play after it's anchored. So there we go. Now the animation plays for the sword hold, and we actually haven't attached the sword yet. That's going to be an important thing. So I have the Nichiren right here that I'm going to be using. That's Zenitsu's, by the way. And I'm going to drag this into the player's script, the attack script. There we go. So to do this, I have to weld the Nichiren to the player's hand. So this one already looks like it's welded just from the looks of it. So I'm going to leave it as is for now. So all I need to do is I'm going to weld the Nichiren to the player's hand. So to do this, what I'm going to do is go up here and so I need to get the nitrine equals script.nitrine. So I'm just going to access Zenitsu's nitrine, and now I can just attach it whenever this starts. So I'll do that right here. So nitrine clone equals nitrine. I'm just going to make a copy of it so it doesn't get rid of it. And I'm going to make it so it gets placed at the player's hand. Oops, not the clone. Pivot to, and then I'm going to have a pivot to the player's right hand. So character.right hand, and we actually are going to need to weld this to the player's right hand. So I'm going to paste in the weld script just again for the sake of the video's time. There we go, nitrine holds. Nitrine clone.parent equals character.right hand. So there we go. This should work. Let's just quickly test it, see if it spawns in his right hand. So, by the way, I might leave it up to you guys to add the sounds, but I'll reference some quick sounds if you guys want. Oops, it says unable to cast instance to coordinate frame. So, let's see. It says unable to cast instance to coordinate frame. Okay, so the problem is that let's just try set primary part C frame, see if that makes a difference. Alrighty, so let's test it. Nope, still the same thing. So that's probably just because I need to make it so it teleports to the player's hand C frame and not just that. You know, it's getting late, so this is what happens, right? But this is a super cool move. If you guys, by the way, like this video, it does take me a lot of time to make these tutorials. Primary part is not... Yeah, you're definitely right. Primary part is not a member of the hold. Nitrine clone. Come on. This is it. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Why does it look like that? Yeah, you might have to, oh, there it is. You have to adjust the C frame a bit, but I'm gonna have it so at the end it destroys the nitrine. Not nitrine holds. Nitrine clone destroy. So now it gets rid of it at the end of the script. And for the head popping off, again, just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna just paste the script into here, and you guys can feel free to copy it. If you guys want, I may be able to drop like a model down below or something. So if you want to use that instead, because I did go over a lot in the video. Or if you want me to clarify something, please leave a comment and I'll respond, because I noticed some of the things may be a little bit confusing in here, especially if you're a beginner. So here we go, hit effect. So this function right here will make the player's head pop off. Head pop off effect. So it basically just clones the player's head, parents it to the workspace, unanchors the head, and it will make the actual enemy's head transparent. It will delete all the children, stuff like that. So it looks like his head's getting chopped off. And also, he will take damage. So before I end the video, there's one more thing. We're about to hit the hour marker, so I don't want to hit the marathon. I'm going to go over the quick how to make a particle emit, and then you guys can implement that if you want. So if I add a particle emitter, and then I just drop down the, like, let's just make it so it spreads, where's the spread? So I'll make it so the, I'm not even on the particle emitter. Oh, there we go. Spread angle. We'll make that a full 360 degrees all around. We'll have it so it has a 30 speed. So it goes really fast. And then we'll have it so it is very low lifetime as well. Like maybe 0.5. And then let's have it so the drag is a bit higher. Drag makes it so over time it slows down, just like this. And there's this really cool plugin called Emit. So you can emit a certain amount of particles. So if I disable this and click Emit, it does that. So what I'm going to do is change the color, make it yellowish, start off yellow, and I'll have it end blue. Just by clicking there. So now if I emit, let's see what happens. It ends off blue. And let's change the transparency. So it starts off full, ends there. Let's have a little middle marker as well. So now it fades out. Super cool. I actually really like that. And that's almost it. There's one more thing that we need to do. I'm going to go to the toolbox, and I'm going to go to the images, and I'm going to search up, like, let's just search up a lightning. Let's see if we can find a good image for the kind of static lightning effect. So if I scroll down a bit, you guys can have any image you want, by the way, for the particle emitter. Let me try static. Let's see if that brings something up. No, not really. So I do have a particle, a nice one actually, from my other world. So let me quickly paste that over, and you guys can copy the texture ID too if you want. So here's the texture ID, and now if I click emit, that's what it looks like, by the way, the texture. And I can also change the rotation, so it's 0,360. It rotates random, just like that. So now this could be the lightning hit effect. So now all I have to do is drag this underneath my attack script, and whenever the enemy gets hit, let's just say lightning equals script.lightning clone lightning dot parent equals enemy character dot primary part, and then all we have to do is emit. Oops, 50. Yeah, 50. 50 should be good, and then we'll add it to the debris. Oops, let's do debris. Add item lightning, and let's add it after like point. Let's just do 1. It doesn't matter because it fades out anyway. So now if I play, let's see if this works. Let's see what it looks like right now. I think I actually do need to add the stun animation that we made too. That's one more thing. So let's see. The sword still looks super weird, but that's okay. That didn't quite do the correct thing. So parent equals character. Oops, I have 2 things named lightning down here. I'm going to rename that lightning effects, and I will also rename these to lightning effects, just like this. So now this should work, and let's also make it so the it stuns the character. Equals script.stun, and then we'll load the stun animation onto the enemy's character. Stun enemy equals enemy character humanoid load animation enemy jar. So there we go. Now it should load the animation, and we'll have it play. So let's see if this works. Hit effect. Did I actually I have to put the hit effect down here. Hit effect. And I'm going to put in the enemy character, so the closest enemy. This is spawning all over the place. I might have to fix it. So emit is not about union operation still. It's still trying to access the union operation and do that. So I'm gonna go back up here. I forgot to actually change the reference. So let's see. So yeah, the effects work. Load animation requires an animation object. That's definitely one thing I need to do. So yep, I did not even reference the animation object from the script. So I'm going to reference it, and now the stun animation will play as well. So if you guys want to add sounds, you could just have it so whenever the player teleports, you can add a sound there. Actually, I just realized the player's primary part's getting changed too. Oh, and there's the head. And I love how that actually looks so funny. Now you could just stop it. So at the end of the hit effect, all you have to do now is to hit effect, or actually it's this up here. Stun enemy, stop. Stop, and then that will fix the animation. And that actually looks pretty good so far. And then the sword, let me try to see if I could quickly fix that. So part 0, character's right hand. It might be because the primary part, oops, we don't want to unanchor that. So let me unanchor the handle, see if that fixes it. If not, then we don't really have to worry about that too much, since I'm sure you guys could. All you would have to do is change the sword C-frame so it's at the right hand and weld it together. How there it goes, it works. The animation makes it look weird, but you could change the animation. There we go. Oh, the animation's still for the stun. Index nil with stop. So all I would have to do is make an animation track. So cool track equals script dot stun, and then we'll just actually this will be the animation. The animation track will be this, and then this will play the animation, and we'll just have it so it plays the animation track and it stops the animation track. So sorry if this was a long tutorial. This is a long attack, and honestly, if you stuck through this hour, good for you, because it is a tough thing to do. So you could definitely skip around this video. You don't have to do it all at once, but this is what it looks like in the end. I hope I was able to at least show you something, something decent you could learn. I'm still not going to just hand out my scripts like it's, nothing, since I didn't make it. So if I do hand out something, it's going to be in a tutorial form, okay? I might, if you were able to stick around all the way to the end, honestly, I might just drop the script inside of a document or something, so then you guys can look at that. So if you guys did like my video or liked my attack that I made, please leave a like, because again, these videos are very high effort, and although this is only my second tutorial video, and I apologize if I didn't explain everything the best. I'm still trying to learn how to explain things in these tutorials. So please leave a comment if you enjoyed the video or enjoyed the attack, and thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for sticking through. And if you want, please leave a comment on other attacks you may want me to create. So here's the final script. I'll scroll through for you guys. So yeah, please just leave a like, maybe sub, and I'll create other tutorials. This is one of the harder ones. It's an intermediate tutorial, so There are 3 types: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Advanced might even be shorter than this, but they have more they're more complicated. So thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day, great night.